the industry, trade and commerce, and all other distinguished citizens of Uttarakhand who are present here. I must say I am overwhelmed, and I thank you for that from the core of my heart. Well, having said that, it will be really ungrateful of me if I don't thank the tax professionals and the taxpayers of entire Western UP and Uttarakhand particularly for having really acted as law-abiding and responsible citizens as regards tax payment during the financial year that had just gone by. As you were told, I was overseeing affairs of Uttarakhand as the Chief Commissioner till the month of September 2018, and then I went on transfer to Delhi as Chief Commissioner Exemptions, and from there as I was holding additional charge of Principal Chief Commissioner Western UP and Uttarakhand from the 1st of January. So practically I oversaw the entire financial year so far as this region goes. I have the pride and I have the pleasure to inform you that during the last financial year, the region of Western UP and Uttarakhand, which is one of the 18 regions in which the country is divided, not only met its budget targets, it in fact exceeded it by 250 crores, while the national target unfortunately could not be achieved. At the national level, we registered a growth of 13.4%, while the growth rate that we registered in the region of Western UP and Uttarakhand was 22.8%. So the credit for that goes equally to you as it goes to my officers and officials. Thank you very much for that on behalf of the Government of India, and I am sure, I do hope that this trend will continue. In fact, it is continuing till the 30th June of this year also. Well, you know, this must be probably the 10th time that I am addressing a gathering of people in the same hall, from the same place. I had a stint of more than almost 14 months as Chief Commissioner of Uttarakhand here, and during my entire tenure, I actually carried what we call our outreach program, not just with the stakeholders of the income tax department, but as a civil servant with almost all the cross sections of the society, to which I will come later. Anywhere where I went, you know, I received so much of support, love and affection that I myself fell in love with Dehradun and Uttarakhand. And coming back again amidst you as the Principal Chief Commissioner of Western UP and Uttarakhand is like homecoming to me. So I think Pradeep Ambast has already set a poetic tone. Before I come to the mundane issues that I want to share with you, let me also set a poetic tone so that later on you listen to me more seriously. And that poetic tone I would like to set by conveying the feeling of homecoming and just how close I feel with Dehradun and Uttarakhand because of the support which I got from different cross sections of the society here. So those few lines let me recite for you, which are like this. मैं उसके घर नहीं जाता वो मेरे घर नहीं आता, मैं उसके घर नहीं जाता वो मेरे घर नहीं आता, इन एहतियातों से लेकिन ताल्लुक मर नहीं जाता। मैं उसके घर नहीं जाता वो मेरे घर नहीं आता, इन एहतियातों से लेकिन ताल्लुक मर नहीं जाता। बुरे हैं अच्छे हैं जैसे भी हैं, बुरे हैं अच्छे हैं जैसे भी हैं, सभी रिश्ते यहीं के हैं। बुरे हैं अच्छे हैं जैसे भी हैं, सभी रिश्ते यहीं के हैं, किसी को साफ दुनिया से कोई लेकर नहीं जाता। वैसे तो खुले हैं और भी कई दर इसी शहर में, वैसे तो खुले हैं और भी कई दर इसी शहर में, तुम ही बताओ कहाँ जाता अगर मैं लौट के घर नहीं जाता। Well friends, as you were told, I never shied away in my career from going amidst people, because I firmly believe, I believe with conviction, that it is only a periodical and transparent communication with the stakeholders which can lead to a healthy administration and a healthy tax regime. Because it is only through such communication, such transparent communication, that we can show to you, we can prove to you that we are accountable to you. And let me tell you that our Honorable Prime Minister also feels the same way. Well, he feels that the senior civil servants like us should not remain glued to their desks during their office hours, and that they should be going out, reaching out to people, to different cross sections of the society, and taking a feedback from them as to what was their expectations from the government, and also inform them as to what the government was doing for them, as to what the government was intending to do for them. In fact, not many of my senior colleagues also knew, but there has been a circular issued by the Prime Minister's office to this effect way back in June 2014 when this government, NDA government, came to power for the first time. It has been in pursuance of that. In fact, I have been following. I personally feel that it's a wonderful idea on the part of our Honorable Prime Minister, and I have followed it in letter and spirit during the last 3 years. During the last 3 years as the Chief Commissioner Uttarakhand, then as the Principal Chief Commissioner of Exemptions, which had an all India jurisdiction, and then subsequently as the Principal Chief Commissioner of UP and Uttarakhand now, I have travelled all across the country, Uttarakhand apart. I have gone to schools and colleges, talked to young students. I have talked to the tax professionals, which of course are our major stakeholders. I have talked to trade bodies, I have talked to chambers of commerce. I have talked even to public servants at the academies of administration in different states. While talking to young students, I have talked to them about the qualities of good citizenship. While talking to public servants, I have dealt with the urgency to deal with the menace called corruption. More often than not, as a taxman, I have appealed to people to pay their taxes regularly and in time. Sometimes what I have said has also constituted threats of the dire consequences of not following the law of the land, particularly the tax laws. But then, this afternoon being face to face with you is slightly intimidating for me. You know, it is intimidating because all of you yourself are so intelligent and so enlightened, and I actually don't possess any superior wisdom than you. And the presence of the tax professionals, the chartered accountants and the tax advocates makes this more intimidating for me. For the simple reason that they actually have become the masters of law and accounts, which actually we are supposed to be administering. And this intimidation, this feeling of intimidation actually makes this task of making a dialogue with you relevant, meaningful and efficacious a little more challenging for me. But then at the same time I have that confidence to live up to this challenge, because when I talk to you, I really don't talk to you as a tax administrator as such, but I talk to you as equal partners in the government's endeavor to usher in a healthy tax regime. So I'll come to that. But before that, this caption which we often use, that is outreach, kar sampark and all that, it gets a little flawed in the context of the tax professionals, because they are a community we really don't have to go to reach out to them, because they are always with us, because they are always around us, and actually for the same objectives. And that objective is to bring the right incomes to tax in a rightful manner. So probably when I speak to the tax professionals, we should change our caption at something like meeting of partners with common objectives or something like that. Well, be that as it may, once I said that you are equal partners as tax professionals and as enlightened citizens, it becomes important and imperative for you to understand as to who you are and what is expected of you, and as to who we are and what is expected of us. So let me first come to you, then I will come to we. Well, so far as the tax professionals are concerned, particularly the chartered accountants, I would like to remind them as to what the Honorable Prime Minister told them while he addressed them about 5 years ago, when he addressed them through the television on the Chartered Accountants Day. Well, in a nutshell, he said that the power of your pen is more than that of the Prime Minister. I actually do not find any exaggeration in that, because think of it, we only verified what you have certified, and as I said, we have no illusions that we possess any superior wisdom than you. We actually learn a lot when we enter into proceedings with you. I have always felt that the tax professionals are our real educators. You are actually the amicus curiae in all our proceedings, in the proceedings that we enter into with you. Well, that being so, and you being such enlightened citizens of this country, responsible citizens, that casts a huge responsibility on your shoulders. Now, what are those responsibilities? Standing here at the moment, let me list out those for you. Those are your responsibilities, those are our expectations. Number one, exclusively for the tax professionals. You see, as I said, we only verify what you have certified. That means that you have to exercise due diligence when you do that. And it is expected that you exercise the highest amount of professional ethics and professional competence when you did that. Number two, again for the tax professionals. See, people go to you in the context of their tax obligations. Please ensure that you never give them the wrong advice. Please always remember that thin difference between what is called tax avoidance and what is called tax evasion. And that thin difference is more often than not thinner than what we think and what we try to argue out. Third, for everybody, for all the enlightened and responsible citizens, you see, you need to spread the message that not paying taxes regularly and in time doesn't help. That it is important to pay taxes to become respectable in the society. That in order to grow in life, you need to pay your taxes regularly, because if you have to grow in life by doing a business, through a profession, or by anything that you do, you need finances, and no lender will ever come to you, because for finances, any lender would try to know whether you have a credible balance sheet, and you can have a credible balance sheet only when you pay your taxes regularly and in time. And you also need to spread the message that money stashed away in cash in unaccounted form beyond a limit actually has no meaning, beyond that limit of what we call conspicuous consumption. It's your responsibility to spread this message. Number four, which is very important, actually the whole concept, the whole idea of these outreach meetings, of which I was, for this I was in the think tank of the Central Board of Direct Taxes when this communication strategy was being thought of as an important activity to be undertaken by the officers of the department. And this year I have ensured, because I am the architect of this year's Central Action Plan for the department, which will become a public document within 7 years, which has been finalized at the level of the board. I have added one more para in that communication strategy chapter, in which I have ensured that it is not just our ITOs or the ACs or the additional commissioners who should be doing this job. The primary responsibility lies with the principal chief commissioner and the chief commissioners particularly, who are 92 in number all across the country. Now, as I was saying, you need to help us in one of our most important objectives, which is widening of tax base. Do you recall what about 4 or 5 years back, while introducing the finance bill, what the Honorable Finance Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, said in the Parliament? He quoted certain statistics of how many people, how many individuals actually in the country file tax returns showing an income of 1 crore, and how few people individuals file tax returns showing income of even 10 lakhs. Well, the numbers should shame us. The numbers that he quoted, actually, I don't know, maybe not exactly in the same form, but each one of us would be knowing twice that number of people in our personal lives ourselves. I really do not understand why in a country of 130 crores, there should not be even 13 crores of income tax assessors. And why in the state of UP, with the population of 22 crores, why shouldn't there be 2 crores of assessors? I mean, meaning 10%. And why in the state of Uttarakhand, which has a population of 1.1 crore, why shouldn't be there even 10 lakhs of assessors? Well, I understand there is a lot of poverty, a lot of people live below poverty line, but the fact is that each one of us sees a lot of prosperity in the form of movable and immovable properties, and in the form of conspicuous consumption when we travel outside. So there is tremendous potential of the number of assessors, for the number of assessors to rise, for the number of tax return filers to rise. Therefore, you as enlightened citizens, you have to spread this message that not paying taxes, not filing tax returns is not only unpatriotic, it can become counterproductive. And let me tell you, and you can use it as a threat, that the income tax department is sitting on a huge database, not only of high value transactions as people generally think, but even of the smallest transactions that could possibly make somebody an income tax payer. And let me tell you that irrespective of the political dispensation in Delhi, no government can afford not to act on those in the years to come. That was point number 4, if I am correct in sequence. Point number 5. Please always, and this is again for the tax professionals, because as I said, they are major stakeholders. Please always remember that thin difference between professional friendliness and professional ethics. Deal with the people in our department, whether he is a tax assistant, or whether he is a commissioner, or whether he is a chief commissioner, or whether he is a principal chief commissioner, with a friendly demeanor. But remember that difference between professional friendliness and professional ethics. Don't do anything which could be called corruption abated. I hope you understand what I am saying. Now, having said that, let me now explain to you in the form of a paradigm of thought as to what we actually do as tax people. You see, we make inquiries. We are basically interfaced with the people in the context of their tax obligations under the law. And for that, we make inquiries, we make verifications, we make assessments, we carry out surveys, we carry out search and seizure operations, etc., etc. In all these activities that we do, we necessarily land up in one of the 4 situations. Situation number 1 is an innocent is proved innocent. Now, it's a very unfortunate situation, because I personally feel that. So, why after all an innocent person should undergo any inquiry at all? But probably at the level of development at which we are, and in the context of the rampant tax evasion, we have to verify even an innocent. There, my expectation from you is, from the tax professionals, is that you have to use your professional competence in a manner that we always reach the conclusion that the innocent was the innocent. Because, as it is said in criminal jurisprudence, 100 criminals may get scot-free, but one innocent should not be punished. Why? Because if you punish an innocent, if you prove an innocent to be guilty, he becomes a cynic, and no sane society can survive with large number of cynics. So that's there also. It's an important responsibility cast on the shoulders of the tax professionals. Situation number 2 is that a guilty is proved guilty. Well, that's our job, and that should be your job too. That should be your professional ethics too. Therefore, my request to the tax professionals would be that please don't try to use your professional competence, professional knowledge to fabricate evidences, to try to misinterpret law, to try to mislead through misleading interpretations of case laws, by taking the assessing officers and the commissioner's appeals and the members of the tribunal through the labyrinth of contradictory case laws and getting confused. Please don't do that. A third situation is that an innocent is proved guilty. Well, that's the link to the first point that I made. And a fourth situation is that a guilty is proved innocent. Well, you can understand that's a disastrous situation. So the expectation from you is that you always conduct yourself in a manner and help us in a manner that an innocent is always proved innocent and a guilty is always proved guilty. Now, first actually I would have stopped here on the V part of my dialogue with you. But based on my last stint as the Principal Chief Commissioner Exemptions for the entire country, and as Principal Chief Commissioner UP West since January, I have 2 more issues to discuss with you, which I think are very important for all of you. So listen to me carefully. The first is about TDS. Mr. Mbast also mentioned about this, about TDS frauds and all. Well, in the month during the period January to March, we came across some very strange kind of things as regards TDS. We found in certain cases, mostly the cases of government deductors of tax, that they were routinely revising their TDS returns based on what you call justification reports and consolidated files and so on. So, I think I should explain that. You see, it was like this, that somebody is making a payment of 1 crore and he was supposed to deduct 2 lakhs and he deducted only 1 lakh. So a notice goes from the assessing officer saying that you have made a short deduction, therefore please make the proper deduction and pay. Rather than making further deduction and paying it to the coffers of the government, what the deductor was doing is he was fudging with the figures of the payment itself. Like he was in the revised TDS returns, they were reducing that figure of payment of 1 crore to 50 lakhs. Now, when such instances came to our notice, it was mind-boggling. I was amazed, I was surprised, and so we took some proactive measures. We carried out some surveys, And in the cases of government directors, I personally took up the matter with the Chief Secretaries of Uttarakhand and UP, and being CCID Uttarakhand, I already knew the Chief Secretary Uttarakhand. So I spoke to him, I spoke to Chief Secretary UP also, in which I told them in no uncertain words that these kinds of things have 5 consequences basically. Consequence number 1 is that we are going to raise our demand by passing an order in terms of section 201, 201A, then and raise our demand and collect it subsequently. Then we are going to initiate penalty and impose it subsequently. We are going to initiate prosecution and prosecute subsequently. Number 4, we actually lodged FIRs, police cases against 2 directors. And so the logical consequence was that we will lodge FIRs for the offence being criminal in nature in such situations. And number 5, we will inform the assessing officers of the detectives so that the short deduction done does not get evaded. And last, the most important, I told them that, whoever the tax director is, whether it's a government director, whether it's a private director, there would be somebody inside us, somebody who is dealing with accounts. He may be an accountant, he may be an expert chartered accountant, he may be a tax advocate, he may be some official of the state government if it's the case of a government director. I told them that in case of such directors, we are identifying as to who are these people whom we can, identify as abettors. And once we do that exercise, and mind you, I am still in the process of doing that exercise. The entire TDS for the entire Western UP and Uttarakhand is directly under my administrative control. We are seriously thinking of covering some such big abettors for such and such operations. So, tax consultants, tax practitioners, if you are one of those, please be alert. Now, that much about TDS. Now about exemptions. Let me also tell you, as I told you, that the Central Action Plan of this year, which is basically for the consumption of our field formations, not for you, the department is going to change its focus. We are not going to be casual when we look at the affairs of the exempted entities in the form of trusts, in the form of exempted entities, NGOs, etc., any exempted entity under the law. And I think the argument that I am going to give to you, all of you will be convinced as a enlightened citizens that the argument is very sound. In fact, this argument I had the privilege of putting forward in the Prime Minister's office, because of which the post of Chief Commissioner exemptions was upgraded to the post of Principal Chief Commissioner exemption, which was a symbolic recognition of the fact that this probably is the most important wing of the department. Now, just look at it. On the one hand, this year's our collection was about 11,38,000 crore against a target of 12 lakh crores. So, for the last 3 years or so, we have been collecting something between 9.5 lakh crore to 11.5 lakh crore. Have you ever thought as to how much of, what kind of amount we would have exempted through these exempt entities all over the country since 1947? Well, I had started the process of compiling it by referring to the donations, corporate donations, etc., but I could complete that task and got transferred. But then that must be still in the process. But I can provisionally tell you that that amount, if you calculate, will not be less than 30-40 lakh of crores of rupees since 1947 till now, in the last 72 years. Exemptions granted in principle are absolutely fine, because you have to understand as to what must have been the philosophy behind the grant of these exemptions. The philosophy must have been that India was, and our constitution makers, they were internationally acknowledged brilliant people like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, like V.R. Ambedkar, like Jawaharlal Nehru and all. They must have thought that India was a nascent democracy which had just become independent, resources are limited, and they had incorporated in the constitution welfare activities which are covered under the directive principles of the state policy, you must be knowing, which makes it mandatory for the government to carry out those welfare activities. This is part of the constitution itself in the form of directive principles of state policy. So the constitution makers, the first set of rulers must have thought that the resources being limited, people's participation was required, and this was the only way to do it, to grant exemptions to encourage people towards these welfare activities. So in principle, the granting of exemption basically was absolutely fine. But then my argument was whether, and the same argument I am making to you, don't you think that after 72 years of independence, does it not become incumbent upon us to have a re-look whether these exemptions actually have served their purpose? As a common man, as a common citizen, if you look at things, they have not. Because otherwise, the situation in the field of infrastructure, particularly in health and education, would have been entirely different. So, therefore, the department, all these arguments have already taken place at the apex level in the country. So in the next couple of years, we are going to have a microscopic look at the conduct of all these exempted entities all over the country. But let me assure you, it is going to happen in an absolutely non-adversarial manner, and there will be absolutely no harassment. Just that we will change the focus. Maybe you will see that the number of normal search and seizure operations will come down, and our scrutiny of these exempted entities will be more during the year. So it's an alert. Well, I think I've said everything that I had to say, that I thought of telling you when I was discussing you. Now let me come to we. Well, friends, let me assure you that most of us, especially at the hierarchical ends of the tax administration, are well-meaning people. I'm not just talking about myself, most of us. And I can personally assure you that I can go to any extent I can take any decision towards getting anything done which should have been done in the normal course and which is not getting done. And mostly the tax professionals, and most of you, because Sasij also hear these terms from the tax professionals, you would have come across two terms that are often used in the conduct of the tax department, that this X officer is pro-revenue and this Y officer is pro-SSE and things like that. But let me tell you, these are all stupid and redundant phrases. These phrases actually don't mean anything. We are here only to implement the income tax law in letter and spirit, and we are here only to collect, not a buy more and not a buy less. And at the same time, we are committed to the government's avowed objective of being non-adversarial, but at the same time alert and efficient, as Mr. Mbasta pointed out many a times during his deliberations. We are committed to that avowed objective of the government towards a non-adversarial tax regime, but at the same time we are going to be alert and efficient. And towards this end, I personally, as the Chief Commissioner or the Principal Chief Commissioner now, I have always told my colleagues at work that they need to always remember that besides being authorities under the law, they are primarily public servants. And public servant means that you are in the service of the people of India 24/7, and that you have to exercise your authority in a manner, in the quintessential spirit of public service, and in a manner in which arrogance and high-handedness have no place. And not just that, I always tell my colleagues, particularly the youngest colleagues, that you need to remember one cardinal principle of functioning while you are at work. And that cardinal principle is, whatever is doable, what you ought to have done in the normal course of your duty must be done expeditiously and with grace. There is no hasan on the assessor. And what is not doable, and you are convinced that it is not doable, please don't waste time. Please don't try to dissect legal provisions. Don't try to take wisdom from the tax professionals. Don't try to travel through the labyrinth of case laws and all to try to get it done. It sends a wrong message, and you yourself get misled. And let me tell you, this philosophy of functioning is going to prevail in my entire tenure and in my entire regime. That assurance I am giving you. Well, I think nothing more needs to be said. Friends, all of us need to remember that times have changed. Times have changed in a manner in this second decade of the 21st century that we are no longer seen as just tax gatherers, and you are no longer seen as just taxpayers and enlightened citizens. All of us are being seen as possible agents of social change. The responsibility on our shoulders is not just ridding the system of rampant tax evasion, of money laundering, of bank frauds, of all kinds of economic offences. But the responsibility is that of creating a value system by our conduct, in which the dishonest get marginalized, and it is only the honest and the honest tax-paying citizens who are respected in the society. That's the challenge. So I think I have said enough. To sum up, I would just like to tell you that the time has come for us. It is time for us to come together and work together towards the goals of revenue, and it is time for us to come together and work together towards strengthening the sinews of the nation, and it is time for us to come together and work together towards rendering justice to the honest tax-paying citizens of India. Now, to conclude, I can't, you remember, sometime, Ranendra Singh was the principal CIT here at that time. I had concluded my whole deliberation with a long poetry by Munawar, and I don't want to do that today. But I can't let it, I can't let it go just like this, so that you remember this afternoon as a mundane afternoon. So let me recite a share for you, which is quintessentially applicable to the thing that I said about our mutual expectations. Let there be a situation at the end of the year in which we are able to say, हमें तो यकीन कि तुम मुनफरीद हो औरों से. मुनफरीद means different. You are different from others. हमें तो यकीन कि तुम मुनफरीद हो औरों से, तुम्हें भी गुमा कि मैं औरों जैसा नहीं. Thank you very much.